1994 was Blackpool Tower's centennial year. In that year, 12 million tourists visited the town. Blackpool did its best to compete with budget air travel and keep working-class families entertained. Even so, it was a far cry from the 50s and 60s when over 17 million came to the West Lancashire resort. The golden sand beaches were always packed. The railway stations were rammed. The proms seemed forever busy, and attractions like Noah's Ark and the often freezing cold open-air swimming pool had no shortage of customers. Having grown up in Blackpool, Paul Naylor and Norm Burrows had lived through the area's decline. They wondered how Britain's other seaside resorts had fared in comparison. So they set out on a near 1,000 miles road trip to visit East Coast resorts with a population of 10,000 or more. They would mark each one against certain criteria and thus attempt to come up with a final score.
First stop was Deal on the Kent coast. Characterised by a steep shingle beach, it does have a pier. Not much on it, mind you. There was ice cream at the pier shop though, and the place was clean. Not a great deal to do after looking at the fishing boats and some nice buildings. A short way north of Deal is Ramsgate, where we start day 2 of our trip. The 2.5 miles of tunnels, cut into the chalk marl by Kent miners just before World War II, are a first-class attraction. They were designed such that refuge from German bombing was no more than 4 minutes away throughout the main town area. Desperate people, bombed out of their houses, even lived down here in what became known as Tunnel Town. Yes, we enjoyed Ramsgate. It was smashing. And so on to our next stop, Margate, and Britain's oldest roller coaster, but it was closed. As we'd heard, Margate was indeed in a run-down state. But there was an area by the harbour with nice shops and cafes. Now we turn west for the 12-mile drive to Herne Bay. Herne Bay was a quiet, somewhat elegant place. The current pier was opened in 1899, was an impressive 3,787 feet long. A remnant of the end portion can still be seen. The Victorian, Edwardian architecture and the small harbour give the place an endearing charm. Whitstable, famous for its oysters, and at one time an important route for coal and other goods bound for Canterbury and beyond. The town has many historic buildings, and it is full of good places to eat and drink. Well worth the visit. And so, to our last stop of the day, Sheerness and Minster-on-Sea. Not a lot to do. Even the pub, which advertised food and in fact was recommended by our hotel, announced they no longer did any. Great stuff. Thank goodness they still did beer. Day 3 involved a 76-mile drive via the Dartford crossing to the north side of the River Thames, to seek out Canvey Island and Southend. The fun park was closed, so we took a walk along the sea defences and learnt about Canvey's flooding problems. Following the disaster of 1953, an impressive wall and embankment was constructed. Less exciting was the paddling pool. If this had been in Blackpool, the press would never have let it go. As a seaside resort, I don't think Canvey is going to score well. Sorry. But Southend was another matter entirely. Our hotel in the Westcliff area was lovely and quiet. A 20-minute walk into town revealed nice hotels, fun fair rides, and of course, that famous pier. We decided to get the train to the end of the 1.3 mile long monument to Victorian engineering. There is an RNLI lifeboat station and berthing facilities for boat trips. Further attractions and a decent cafe are also to be found. Good stuff, Southend. Another day, 146 miles to cover en route to Great Yarmouth. Not a lot to see in Malden, so we'll ignore that one. In 1865, on land near Great Clacton village, this resort was built. One of the first facilities was this pier, which opened in 1871. With plenty to do and a nice cafe, we liked this place. A policeman even took our picture at the front of the pier, on the way to arrest somebody. Honest. How friendly is that? Our look at Walton was, unfortunately, limited to a simple drive-by. This Essex resort has a population of just over 12,000 and has about 100,000 visitors per year. It's not going to compete with Blackpool on numbers, but the Naze with its tower and indeed the general area is very, very pretty. 38 miles further north finds us in Britain's biggest container port. But it also has a tourist side. In our opinion though, given the wealth in the port business, it's quite undeveloped. Yet, in August 2017, the new £3 million pier renovation opened. This included a bowling alley and arcade machines. The pier decking extending over the sea remained, however, due to safety concerns, visitors are not able to walk the entire length. Lowestoft, the most easterly point in the UK, is another small but quaint British resort. Clearly lacking funds and resources, on a sunny day, it was still rather a pleasant place to be. Some of the earliest signs of settlement in Britain have been found here. Flint tools discovered south of Lowestoft in 2005 suggest human habitation as far back as 700,000 years. Blackpool can't beat that. Great Yarmouth has been a resort since 1760. Holidaymaking rose considerably when the railway arrived in 1844, bringing easier, cheaper access and some new settlement. The Britannia Pier opened in 1858. I've always wanted to visit here because some of the first equipment I wrote software for way back in 1985 was installed here in the Long John's bar. It would have been rude not to have had a pint here. Although the town was busy, the pier amusements were closed. The beach was near empty too. Later we went for a meal down Regent Street. It was quite rowdy. At least the EV charger back at the Imperial Hotel worked. First stop on this, day 5, was not initially planned. Cromer was said to be a boring place, not worth the time. We couldn't disagree more. It looked glorious in the midsummer sunshine. The pier of the year 2004, however, appeared a bit Spartan to us. Not a lot to do for kids. But a very pretty place indeed, and well worth a look if you're touring East Anglia. And so on to the North Norfolk Railway at Sheringham. This is a heritage railway that I wanted to visit for a very long time, and it's by the coast. So me and Paul took a round trip down the line to Holt and back. The scenery was fantastic. Good stuff. Our visit to Stiffkey is purely sentimental on my part. Dad hated his national service, and knowing that this was one of the places he was sent in the very early 1950s, I wanted to see it for myself. He was a cook in the Army Catering Corps. He hated that too, and became a builder afterwards. Today, Stiffkey is best known for its salt marshes and some army relics of the Cold War, if you know where to look. The army base has become a holiday campsite. The only remaining original building is the concrete guardhouse on the left-hand side. For a town with a population of just 20,000, Skeggy attracts over 2 million visitors a year, which is remarkable. This bright and breezy place had a nice pier, a decent fun fair, and some good beaches. The relatively poor road connections, however, are criticised by many. Mablethorpe gained its market town charter in 1253. It is one of Lincolnshire's popular coastal towns, with a magnificent Blue Flag Award-winning beach consisting of 2 miles of soft golden sand. Well, that's what the Mablethorpe website said. What we saw was miles of retaining wall and rather scruffy amusements in the town. But had we had enough time to explore properly, we might have found this delightful area with a smashing view of that beach. Day 6. Another 91 miles today, taking our total to over 900 so far. Paul's grandkids call him Papa, so he thought this shot was funny. Pity the pier was all locked up on a Friday in midsummer. We stayed in nearby Grimsby the previous night, as accommodation here seemed overpriced. There are some very nice parts to the town, including a miniature railway. Naturally, we had to have a ride on this. Pity it wasn't steam, as depicted in their brochure though. 65 miles north via the Humber Bridge landed us in Brid, as the Yorkies call it. What a rough place it seemed to be. We saw gangs of hoodies on motocross bikes with no helmets or reg plates. Don't think they were Christian missionaries. There were some nice places by the harbour. Don't think I'll rush to come back here again though. Filey was a completely different kettle of fish. I loved the quality of the seawall stonework, the architecture, the beautiful beach and bay. Not a great deal for kids here, except ice cream. We liked Old Filey, its clean, fresh air feeling and its undoubted history. The view of Scarborough from our hotel, high on the hillside, was magnificent. But it was a long way down to where the action was. Along the way, the Grand Hotel impressed us with its Victorian grandeur, and that Anne Bronte stayed there once, although it did need a little essential maintenance here and there. The seafront funfair was tiny, but the harbour area was very nice. Mind, our hotel seemed a hefty walk back. Luckily, those pesky Victorians provided a cliff tramway to take much of the pain away. Day 7. Our trip nears its finale. This last day takes us to Whitby North Beach and finally Redcar. Having visited the main part of Whitby several times before, we decided to give the less known North Beach area a looking at. To be honest, there isn't a lot going on here. You can see that Paul has had enough. He's in the car already. I admit Redcar was chosen because an episode of one of my favourite whodunits was filmed here. But first, we just had to have a look at the Zetland Lifeboat Museum. A real treasure is this, staffed by some real gentlemen. Series 13, Episode 3 of Vera was set around this very same chippy. I just had to see it for myself. Not far away, amidst it had to be said some dereliction, was this excellent tea room. Absolutely fabulous service, at a price Southerners could only dream of. Across the road were a few attractions, but really, the town needs some serious investment. But I have a soft spot for Redcar. We really do wish it well.
Now it's time to tot up the scores, compiled by our totally unbiased and professional team. These unique methods are subject to copyright laws and may not be duplicated. Oh dear, we can see already that Redcar, Minster and Margate have scored low. Bridlington in at a surprise 6. Wow! Canvey Island, as expected, gets the wooden spoon. But how does this all compare to Blackpool? Lordy! 9.5. The boys offered up these 10 reasons to justify that amazing score. Number 1. Over 7 miles of continuous golden sandy beaches. No pebbles here. Number 2 is the Pleasure Beach. Covering 42 acres, there's some massive rides at this, the UK's biggest theme park. Then there's the 6 main theatres. The Opera House, the Tower, the Grand, the Viva, and the Joe Longthorne Theatre at the end of North Pier. There are others, including the famous ice rink and Funny Girls. Fourthly, Blackpool has no less than 3 piers, each crammed with attractions. And in at number 5. Blackpool has motorway links directly to the town, for easy access to ample, convenient car parking. Number 6. Unrivaled, undercover amusements on the Golden Mile, and within the vast Winter Gardens complex. At 7. The world-famous Blackpool trams. New and old. Then there's Blackpool Illuminations, the greatest free show on earth. Since 1879. Just saying. At numero 9, Blackpool's indoor water theme park, the Sandcastle. Finally, at number 10, Blackpool has good rail connections, with 5 stations serving the town. And at Blackpool North, there is the new tramway interchange. So there it is. Paul and Norm's thoroughly objective, nay, scientific view of British East Coast resorts in relation to Blackpool. You might be thinking, who the heck do they think they are? Truth is, they don't care. And neither do I. And I'm just an artificial intelligence narrator who can't get expression and emphasis right. Fact is, this program was created to document this 2024 road trip and also have a bit of fun. To finish off, here's a few archive photograph and video shots of Blackpool from Norm's personal archive. Thank you for watching.